Hello and welcome to the Hot Rep. Yes, it's been incredibly hot in the UK over the past few weeks, and I've been sweating away up in my attic operations room to bring you all these lovely videos. Fortunately at the moment it is rather cooler, so I'm taking the opportunity to record a quick sit rep. So what have I been up to? Well, actually, before I do any of those updates, I'd just like to mention and give a shout out to Josh and Jen, who came all the way over from America to see yours truly. Well, not really. I went to a wedding and it just so happened, amazingly, that they'd heard of and subscribed to my channel. So I had a good old chat with them. Now they do some Warhammer stuff, but he does actually do, this is Josh, he does actually do some of the historical stuff as well. So that was quite remarkable, meeting up with somebody from across the water at a wedding of all places in the luxurious surroundings in Oxford. So nice one. So hi Jen, hi Josh, hope you're well. Right, what to talk about this time? Russo-Japanese war stuff and my dilemma between the 6mm and the 3mm. So I put on the tag I was going to do a Oddziel Osmi 3mm review, and I've got the figures through from Poland now. A bit of a shenanigans with ordering them, but they're through with a bit of bank transfer action, and let's have a look, see what we got. These are the Russian World War I advancing. They come in 5s. There's a leader on the right, and as you can see they're on a little sprue which needs clipping off. They are quite brittle, but they do have an indentation in between each figure, so you can break them up a bit. Need to be careful with that, and of course need to be careful with the rifles as well. Now here's my 6mm figures from Bacchus, which I've already painted up, and although it's 6mm and 3mm, you can see there's a considerable size difference, obviously volume as well as height. Okay, let's have a look at something else. ACW Union figures advancing. They've got fixed bayonets and there's 10 of them in one long line. Again, these come on the little sprue which needs clipping off. In fact, they all do. There's a little bit of plastic flash around the bases. Just needs picking off with a knife or something like that. And here's the Russian World War I cavalry. Come in strips of 3. And rather annoyingly for my video, they're at a slant, so I can't stand them up particularly well. Now with these figures you can see there's a lot more little bits of flash around the legs of the horses, but that's quite easy to pick off, as I said before. So here they are off the sprue and cleaned up a little bit, and if you look at them, as you can see, it's some fantastic detail on them. Whether I could do that any justice with painting is another matter. One thing to note, those lances are extremely brittle, so if you do knock them then they're going to go flying. Now with these figures previously, when I bought them through Magister Militum, they were metal, so they've obviously re-engineered this and started to produce them in this sort of hard plastic. And this final little stand I'm showing you here is the Austro-Hungarian command stand. It's got a general, a few officers standing up and a machine gun. So here's the cavalry mounted on my 30mm by 25mm base with a bit of sand PVA'd down. Now because they've come in strips of 3, I've just put 4 side by side here, just playing around with a few designs at the moment. Whether I'd stay with this or not is another matter, but I think they look pretty good. And here's the Russian infantry advancing. Because they've got a command figure at one end, whether you'd actually see them at this scale I don't know, I've clipped off one from a little strip and then lined them out as so, just 3 lines here, and again whether I'd stay with that configuration is yet to be decided. So I've done a quick spray undercoat of grey, and you'll notice the ACW Union advancing troops are in 4 lines or 4 ranks advancing. And here's my Russian infantry all painted up, based with a bit of flock. So I'm not entirely convinced about this. They've got their light green trousers and their beige khaki tops, but they do tend to disappear into the base at this scale, which I guess is no great surprise. So either I sort my basing out different colours, or I think about something else. Well, I'm liking the look of the cavalry a little bit better, and probably the reason for that is they have different colours. So they got the greys and the darker browns rather than just the khaki, and I think it does make it stand out a little bit more. I've also done the lances in a light brown, so I'm happy with those, and I think the configuration goes reasonably well. I might think about breaking them up a little bit to give them a more irregular appearance, but we'll see, because that's very fiddly. And now onto my ACW infantry advancing. Clearly these are not in the blue of the Japanese uniforms. I've done these in a white, and the reason for that will become apparent in a moment. I think if I was going to do the Japanese, I would go for the same figures as the Russians, and to be honest, at that scale the uniforms are going to be fairly indistinct from each other. So that's the Oddziel Osmi 3mm stuff. Obviously I've only shown you a few variations there. They do quite a large range, including modern as well. I am very tempted by that, but ultimately I will be going with 6mm for my Russo-Japanese War project, and I'll show you some of the stuff which I've ordered and painted in the meantime. 3mm stuff though, I still am very interested in that. To be honest, if I'd have known about 3mm previously, I'd have done my Napoleonics 2x2 and all of that in 3mm. I've got my ancients, the old Alexander, Persians and all that sort of gang in 3mm. I think they look pretty good. So the back end of that little review, you'll have seen the ACW infantry advancing painted up in white. And one of the reasons I've done that is because I quite like the look of the Russo-Turkish War. So there we go, another little project. Picked up this fantastic book from Helion. Wasn't cheap. But there we are. It's not a period I know much about, or a war for that matter, but those mysterious areas down south of the Caucasus with Russia and Turkey fighting over many, many years, it just gives another opportunity to have a look at some interesting history there. So the Russo-Turkish War with 3mm with the old Oddziel Osmi stuff. Like I say, I'll show you what that looks like at the end of my Russo-Japanese stuff, and you can see what you think about that. But I quite like the look of it, but that is another project which I'll be pushing somewhere into the future. I just wanted to have a look to see how it went with the 6mm stuff for the Russo-Japanese and how it looks on its own, and I think it stacks up pretty well for what I want to do with the Russo-Turkish War. Alright, enough of that. We'll park that for the moment, and let's take a look at where I've got to. I'm going to play around with my trial order with 6mm backers for the Russo-Japanese War, and also some terrain stuff. So these chaps here are from one pack of 96 Russian infantry advancing and one pack of the machine guns. Obviously these chaps are in front, and I've put 2 on each of the bases. Again, these are 30mm by 25mm, and I've got 8 bases there, and the plan will be to get 50 bases. So there is a big order in at the moment with backers. They take a few weeks to come through, but I'm looking forward to that. And of course you've got to have the terrain to go with it. So these are 6mm buildings from 2D6 Wargaming, the Japanese buildings, and this is for Manchuria. Somebody suggested that perhaps you should go for stone buildings, but I thought I've got enough of those, and this just might look a little bit more interesting. I've based a couple of little houses up here. These will represent a village, block painted there, and obviously sand and PVA for the base. Cluster of buildings here. The single story ones are marketplaces or shops and whatever, and the larger ones are big residences. So I've grouped these together, and this will represent a larger town, and another one here, and of course I can always put them together to make an even bigger town. I think these bases are something in the region of 100 by 100 mils, and these are the footprints for villages. So 3 of these, just a couple of little houses on each. And because it's Manchuria and 1904, 1905, you've got to have a bit of railway track. This is all 3D printed stuff from Butler's printed models, although it was rather tedious to paint all the lighter brown bits in between the sleepers and the rails. Good grief, I nearly went mad doing that. Anyway, it's finally done. So there we go, that's my Bacchus 6mm sample project up and running. Only 8 infantry men on each stand, so it will be a lot less onerous than doing my 6mm Napoleonics, which took the best part of a year to start and finish. So the project itself shouldn't take too long to sort itself out. And I gave the number of bases I'm looking at doing. It is very infantry heavy, so it shouldn't take too long to get squared away working in the background with all of that sort of stuff. Terrain, as you've seen, is pretty much done. A few hills, obviously, under a cloth, and we are good to go. Manchuria, here we come. Right, back to 3mm stuff. Let's have a look at how my Russo-Turkish war stuff may look in the future. So here we go, got Ottomans on the left and Russians on the right. I've got to use my Odsil Osmi figures to good effect. Gone for the 4 ranks of 10. Quite a basic colour scheme, quite a light blue for the Ottomans with a hat, which is the old red fez. Bayonets tipped with silver, and a bit of musketry action going on. The Russians are pretty much all white, got some sort of white headgear for certainly the summer season, and on the back of all of them I've just done a dab of the black paint to simulate a backpack. Most of these miniatures actually had the old roll greatcoat, but obviously at this scale you can't really see that anyway. So a dab of black over the top and you wouldn't know any different, and certainly from 3 feet all you're going to see is pretty much the white and the blue and the red of the Ottomans with their fez on top, and I think that looks pretty good. Well, there we go, 3mm, 6mm, what's not to like with very small scale little men running around on the table? Not a lot. Fantastic. I was going to do some other stuff, looking at some other projects, but I think I've wasted enough of your time now looking at my little men. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.